You are listening to Wild Time, the animal rights / world conservation show with myself, Thomas Janak. And the funny thing about this show is not only that we're 6 years old already, but we were just talking the other day to a gentleman called Jeffrey Deckers from the European Coalition for Ending All Animal Experiments in the Netherlands. And we talked about the way activists are being looked at, you know, and we talked about stereotypes that people think what activists are, and because I have long hair and never shave, I could either be in a Bee Gees tribute band or I could be an activist. So people obviously think, oh yeah, you fit that really, you know, you fit that niche. And today we did, you know, we're just as guilty as all these people because we just played Judas Priest to you, and we didn't play it this time because they're from Birmingham where I live these days. No, we play it because we're talking to bikers today, and it's typical that people say, oh, all bikers have to listen to heavy metal. They'll probably get kneecapped if they listen to Erasure, which is probably not even true. But anyway, I'm talking to a gentleman here called Vincent Lenson, and he's from a group Bikers for Orcas. And remember this for you guys out there, if you are regular listeners or if you're new to this program, we have done many interviews about the plight of cetaceans in captivity. Not only have we talked to Gabriela Kaupersweit from Blackfish, and about to the producer of The End of the Line, we have also covered many conversations about Morgan the orca and all the kind of things. So if you just go to our official blog, which is www.wildtimeonline.blogspot.com, that's www.wildtimeonline.blogspot.com, and type in ocean or cetaceans or whales or orcas or whatever you want to type in, there will be a ton of interviews coming up. And I've often been asked, why are you covering this so often? And the answer is simple: because we have to. These animals are in captivity, they shouldn't be there. And thank God there are so many people out there who do something, and because this is a global problem, we talk to people from many different places, so therefore we have to recover this. That's basically the short answer to it. But let's just talk to Vincent about Bikers for Orcas, because that in itself is a very interesting idea, Bikers for Orcas. So let's just see what this is all about. Vincent, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
How did this come about with Bikers for Orcas?
Well, how this came about is actually it started with Morgan, as you mentioned in the intro. When she was captured along the Dutch coast, I should
probably mention that you are also in the Netherlands.
Yeah, so I think you did. So yeah. That's okay. I live in the Netherlands, and at some point there was this big TV thing going on about an orca being captured offshore of Holland, and that was of course Morgan, and she was put in our marine park that we have here, Dolfinarium.
Hargeweit.
Yeah, that's it.
Like this,
yeah, that's it. And when I was a child, we went on a school trip to the same marine park, and in those days they had an orca performing. It was Gudrun. She was later sent to America to perform for SeaWorld, and I always was, how do you say it? I was very interested in that animal. She was motionless in a tank while the dolphins were performing, and at some point they would draw her into the show and she would perform. But she was an eye catcher for me. So when Morgan came to Harderwijk, I wanted to see that animal again. And we were standing there in line because there were visiting hours set for Morgan. You couldn't just walk in and see her. You had to wait in line at this very small tank. And she was basically motionless, not interested in people at all, until we walked up to her. I was there with my girlfriend and my 2 children, and I walked up to the glass and she came swimming over to me. And she kind of looked at me in a strange way, I felt. And instead of feeling the excitement I had when I was a small child, I felt very sorry for the animal.
Which is usually the best thing to feel, because that is exactly what needs to happen. The moment you wake up, you do everything you can, you get them out of there. Because just to recap this for your listeners out there, if you're not aware, Morgan is used to be a free animal who has been captured because he was injured, and the deal was to prep him back to health and then let him go. So that hasn't happened. There are now court cases about this. Now at the moment I think he's in Spain, in Laura Parker. So this is a massive case. You can actually, just Google this. We had the pleasure of talking to Dr. Ingrid Visser about this numerous times, and also to Dr. Laura Pizzato, and also Jean-Michel Cousteau was on our show. So we talked about this numerous times. We have done at least 4 shows on Morgan. So this is a well-known case. So just to recap, if you're really interested in this, because we won't have time to go through all of these things, there is additional information to be found on our blog, wildtimeonline.blogspot.com, and we're recording this for you to listen to this, because we always mention what can be done. Okay, so sorry for plugging this, but it's always important when we have a chance to go back to something we have covered, Vincent. It makes sense for us to reiterate on it a bit.
Yeah, sure, no problem. That happened. I was staring at her. She was looking at me, and I felt sad for her. So that got me thinking, what can I do? Because since a small boy, I really love these animals, and I still do, of course. And there wasn't much I could do that was new, refreshing. I could stand outside with a sign, release her, and all that, which is good, by the way, because I very much support everyone that is anti-captivity and who goes out there and spends their precious free time to
in the chilling winds at times. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've met a lot of people lately that do that, and I'm so thankful for them doing this. But I wanted to give a new twist to it, and I started thinking, what can I do? Is there anything I can do that makes sense and that's new and refreshing and that hasn't been done yet, and that will wake up people that are not activists? Because every activist knows this is wrong, but the normal people that go visit the parks don't.
Before we talk about your idea of bringing it into the world of bikers, I have been, just like yourself, I have been brought to the zoo when I was a child. I loved it. There were times where I envisioned myself when I'm 75, I sit in front of a cage or an enclosure, whatever you want to call it, and become the friend of this lone animal wherever it is, until my dying day, because I liked to be near them. So this is how I once thought. Then I brought my own kids to the zoo. And now 10 years after doing this for the last time, I describe zoos and wildlife parks, or places like Laura Park or Hageveld, just as prisons for animals. So obviously it does change. When you stood in front of that animal and you felt differently for the first time, was there a moment where now I have brought my kids here, and somehow it's different to when you were brought there? When did it dawn on you that something is off?
By the moment she looked at me, or appeared to be looking at me, something snapped, something broke. Such a majestic creature trapped in such a small tank. At that point she was just being put there to get stronger, and the plan was to release her, of course. But now knowing and seeing, a friend of mine called Rihanna went to visit her at Laurel Parque
in Spain.
Yeah. She took some pictures, and you could see the scars. But the thing that bothers me most, I mean, you mentioned the zoos and all that, and of course I do not support animals in enclosures and all that, but these animals have to perform for their food.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I understand. There's an even more evil twist to the whole situation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, a tiger in a zoo is just as bad, but it gets thrown its meat and it will eat, and it doesn't have to do anything but stand there and be, as they say, pretty. Exactly. But these orcas have to perform for their food, and also these orcas are being put together with other orcas that are not related to them.
Yeah. Which is, again, very important to mention this, because unlike common, the way of people sometimes think, they're all the same, put them in there. If they don't, if they're not from the same family, they will be very, jealous of one another. They will be very aggressive towards one another. So putting them in a place where none of them can get out. There have been deaths, there have been injuries, numerous injuries, and they can't go anywhere. And of course, people who have a park like this, because there are thousands of, so don't take my word for it, there are thousands of books on the topic, like Death at SeaWorld, for instance, one of the books that we have talked to the author, where people, they're not making this public. But these days, where people have under, video cameras and mobile phones and whatever have you, just to say that. So, there's more than meets the eye in all of these cases.
Well, exactly, and as you said, there's tons of material on this. On our website, are a few documentaries as well, which clearly shows these animals are very intelligent, and if you get into them a bit more and read up about them and about their history and the history they have in marine parks, you just know it's wrong.
Yeah.
There's nothing right about having these orcas in captivity. Nothing.
And the other important thing is that people who put them there seem to know it, because the very fact that trainers oftentimes teach them sign language when the orca themselves has no hands to answer back, shows you, in my mind, it's very clear that they're not interested in finding out, how majestic they really are. Because it would probably be horrible if the people there would know, oh, I have someone who is equal to me. Maybe it would change the game. Who knows?
Yeah, well, simply put, it's all about the money, really.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, today I read a bit of a story on Facebook about someone offering $5 million American dollars to get Lolita free, which is brilliant. And if that would have happened, it would be like a dream.
Yeah. And Lolita, just for again, Lolita is not in Holland. She has been in captivity for years and years and years. You probably remember we talked to director Tim Gorski a while ago about his movies, and he made a movie about it. And if I remember correctly, that movie is about 15 years old, and it was shot in the States. So it's a different animal altogether.
Yeah, it's a different animal. Also a wild captured animal.
Yeah.
But they won't give her up, and basically it comes down to the money.
Mm-hmm.
She makes money for them, and whatever is wrong with her or whatever they are doing wrong is not of interest. It's just about the money. And basically it's stupid because they call it educational and whatever. But if you go to Google these days and you type killer whale or orca, you can find all the information you need about these animals. Marine parks are so out of date, really out of date. It's stupid to still have these around anywhere.
And it's very ignorant these days to even believe that there's education in it, because if you look at their life in the wild and what you could learn from watching them, because there are whale watchers out there, and how they then behave in a foreign environment, which would be a park, there's nothing to be gained. And that as well has even been supported by zoologists. I mean, like I said, don't think of us activists as giving you these stories. That's all well known. But if you go to the zoo and if you go to these places, read up on them and try if you can see any of this, what they would usually be like in the wild when you see them in captivity. It sort of bothers me that we're having the 21st century now. And, people say like, but if they die out in the wild, at least we have them in captivity, all that kind of stuff. That is the idea of the people who obviously do that for a living and say like, well, come to us, you can see them here. So unless people wake up, it's going to be difficult.
It's very difficult. And what I fear most is that in about 10 or 20 years, we look back at this time and think we were barbaric to these animals. It's so inhumane to keep these animals locked up. And as you said, you don't have to go to a park to see these. Orcas are known to be all over the world, and there are a lot of whale watching tours that don't disturb them in their natural environment. I mean, you got in Canada, you've got Wild Coast Adventures doing canoe trips with these animals. Mm-hmm. And you will see them in a natural habitat and not performing weird tricks that they wouldn't do in the wild. But you don't even have to see them do tricks to love these animals. These creatures are beautiful. And
the argument has always been, people can't afford it, so therefore we bring the animals here. It's not right, because when you reverse it, if someone would walk through your living room all day just to stare at you, you would say like, oh, and this has nothing to do with intelligence. This, most animals on this planet will notice when you encroach on their land. So they will be disturbed by your presence oftentimes. That's why these whale watching things are so great, because they don't trap them. They go there if the whale doesn't show up. Tough luck.
Yeah, and it's something people should know or think about when you take your children to these parks. Think about this. If you put your son or your daughter in their room for the rest of their lives, doing tricks for others to entertain them, I mean, how would they feel about that? It's weird.
Yeah, it is. And then obviously you have this big argument because they're not human. Somehow it's all justifiable, which it isn't. So obviously you knew when you were there. This must have changed everything in your family then.
It changed a lot, really. Yeah. I'm not a born activist. I'm not a vegetarian and all that. Yeah. But I did show my kids what was wrong about them. They do participate in all I set up, and I do show them documentaries. I explain them. I show them books, pictures, and all that. And I'm trying to educate them so that they later when they're old enough to have their own kids, do not make the same mistake as I did and bring them to one of these parks.
And it's interesting because you don't have to be a born activist. I was a good person all my life, I believe. My ex-wife would probably say I wasn't. But but the point is, I ate meat for 40 years, and then eventually, as I got delved deeper into animal rights and got this show, it just didn't make sense to me anymore. But it's oftentimes again the way people look at us activists is like, you either do everything right or you're not a good person. So forget about that. To me, in my mind, I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years down the road you will be vegan.
Well, I'm not really expecting that, to be honest. But
I never expected it. That's exactly my point. I never expected it. My girlfriend was vegetarian, semi-vegan when I met her years ago. And she would never force me to do anything. And the last thing I thought in my life I would give up is meat. And now these days it's just off the menu. Well, it's just one of those things. Just saying it. So don't close your mind to it.
No, you're right. I'm a smoker. It's also a bad habit of me, and
I all have bad habits. I love chocolate.
Well, I love that as well. But 5 years ago, when you asked me, can you quit smoking, please? I would say no, forget it. That's my thing. And
yeah.
And now I'm actually trying to quit smoking, so I'm never going to say no, but I don't think it will happen. But
I'm just saying it. It's just interesting, to touch on a few different things when we have the chance to talk about it. Because these things happen unexpectedly. So and obviously what is important is because it's you call yourself bikers for Orcas.
Yeah.
Again, I have no real clue what bikers are like in real life. I have seen a couple of movies. Nobody in my immediate family is a biker. So all I know is folklore, Motorhead fans, and what I see on the telly. So, but obviously, when you went there as a grown adult with your kids, and then it happened to you firsthand, that changed you. Very likely, if it hadn't happened to you, probably you wouldn't have changed. So how difficult was it to bring this back to your group of bikers and say, like, this is the case of Morgan, or this is the case of Orcas? Shall we do something together? How did that all come about, and how and what was the reaction?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because everyone thinks, especially people that have no bikers in their friend group or in a family, we are not different from anyone. There are bankers on bikes. There are
good. That's what I meant. And you have no idea.
And well, I had to figure it out myself first, but bikers are a lot like orcas when you look at it. It sounds very funny, but when you look at it, it's not that weird. We enjoy our freedom very much. It's a thing that's the most important thing to bikers, I think, is freedom. The feeling that you're out there and
you're not domesticated. Absolutely, I get it.
Yeah, that's one thing. Also, we are very social to each other. In Holland at least, we wave to each other. There's a lot of things that if you look at it, it's not that weird to have bikers related to orcas.
No, that's not what I meant. But my question was, when you go to a group of bikers and you come in there with a completely changed view, I just wondered, especially if they know you longer. I'm just asking because these are the things that happened to me. I changed, so I told the world about it, and obviously even people that were close to me said, like, what? Say this again? I just was wondering how this was all accepted in your group, because apparently you would have to explain to them what that really means for the orca in captivity.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to explain, is that because we have that feeling for freedom and all that, and you show them what these animals, especially some of them like Lolita and Charming in Argentina, in what conditions they are, you don't really have to tell people a lot. You just have to show them how these animals are being kept and what they are doing to them. And bikers are animal lovers like anyone else, and most people love animals.
Yeah, well, they should.
And orcas just have something about them that's so majestic. You think, well, this is wrong. Also, of course, after Blackfish came out, I used that on a lot of people. Look at this movie.
And look how big it has become.
It's huge, and it's great that it's become this huge, because it's really educating people on this subject. Yeah. And even my own brother, who was when I told him I was busy with bikes for Orcas, he told me, like, oh, look at him, he's going to save the whales and blah blah blah, and he was making fun of me. And
yes, do.
yeah, well, you should know. And actually, he asked me for a copy of Blackfish because I have to.
There's always hope. That's exactly what I mean. There's always hope, isn't it?
And he just understood, and he said, "Well, that movie it did something to me. It did make me feel bad for these animals, and that's basically." As you mentioned before, Death at SeaWorld is a book. If you read that, you know how bad it is.
And the very fact that the author, gosh, I wish I could remember his name now. My apologies.
Kirby.
Yeah, David Kirby. Sorry, David, if you ever listen to this. It's just we talk to so many people that sometimes it escapes me. And what a great person he is. And when I see him on television, oftentimes, obviously I checked how he looked because I only talked to him here via Skype. It's amazing how oftentimes they sort of cut across and try to sort of make him ridicule him, or even though he's clearly a journalist. And his researches. Of course, he fell in love with the creatures, and he actually, I think, he even cried on air here, because it is a very deep topic. But the book is written as a from a journalistic point of view, objective point of view, and it just goes to show that someone who writes a decent book about it, then gets scrutinized oftentimes before people actually think about what he's saying, and it's no different with Blackfish. Luckily, a lot of people nowadays have looked behind the facades already, and therefore the movie gets a lot of acceptance.
Yeah, and David Kirby was actually one of the first that supported us as a group, Bikers of Orcas. He did an interview with us, and he was very enthusiastic when awesome. I sent him a mail about the idea we had and what we wanted to do. Same goes for Ingrid Visser and Howard Garrett from Orca Network. They were all very enthusiastic, and later on, when I started talking to people from Blackfish, like Samantha Burke and Christopher Porter, everyone was so positive about the idea, and they all saw the link between the bikers and the orcas, and
absolutely,
it's so much. It gives so much energy to have these words come back to you from people that you respect.
Yeah, that's also very interesting, because when you talk to Ingrid Visser, we spoke to her, and she actually told us that some of the magazines, newspapers and stuff, they don't say Dr. Ingrid Visser. They say activist Visser. Remember, we talked about this because, again, the very word activism or activist, animal rights activist, has a bad connotation. And she says, she's a marine biologist, for all I know. So she has studied animals in depth. So she has a doctor title in this. And then people, again, it's the same case like David, Kirby, where they just try to minimize and ridicule their impact, and that's something that's not going to happen to you, bikers, because here, that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Here you have a lot of people who have no idea how you really are. So if you show your strengths the way people think bikers behave.
Well, that's the thing. Bikers get a lot of attention, in a good way or a bad way. I mean, you got motorcycle clubs that have a bad reputation, and they probably do bad things, but I assure you 90% of bikers are just normal people like you and anyone else. But when a bike comes by, and especially when it makes a lot of sound and it looks flashy,
which is the idea behind it.
People look. They always look. They turn around and they look, and that was the point. I thought, well, I can put that to good use and use that to get the subject out there on the streets.
Yeah.
And as you said, Ingrid Visser, a wonderful person, one of the best people I've ever talked to, really. She's a beautiful personality and has a big heart for these creatures. And when she got excited, I was like, yeah, all right, I'm doing something right here.
And also she's an expert, because that's one of the things that we also try to sort of bring home to our listeners, that yes, we love grassroots groups because the people who do campaign have done their homework very well, but we also have had loads of doctors and experts on the show explaining this to us. So if you're not of an animal rights mind, and if you really don't care much about our ideas of liberating animals, whatever, then if you listen to people like Dr. Ingrid Visser, who has studied years and years and years put into the work, and therefore is very quick in dispelling all the myths that are coming out of Laura Parker about how great Morgan is doing these days, and he has no family, so he needs to be in captivity, all that kind of stuff. She completely scientifically has proven them wrong. And again, it's another important thing that I wanted to highlight, because that's one of the things why we're so delighted to have had her on.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She brings out so much energy, and there are points. I mean, it's a big setup we're having at the moment, and there are points where I just get lost in it and think, well, what's going to happen? Is this going to work? And then I'll talk to her or Samantha Burke or even people I met just through Bikers of Orcas, new people, and it gives so much energy to talk to these people and think, right, we have to do this, we have to make this work, and even if it doesn't, I will know I have done my best to make this happen.
Absolutely. And again, you're then one of many people. There are loads of different groups working from different angles. And it's always easy, and we all have that, sort of giving up is a normal thing where you kind of say, like, people say, like, I've been doing this for years and nothing has happened. Believe it or not, there is a shift. And so from that point of view, of course, we would all like to happen it overnight. But you were saying, does this work? So the question obviously is, what exactly do you intend to do?
Well, as I said, bikers draw attention, and, what would draw more attention is a big group of bikers doing a protest ride. And what would draw even more attention is doing it worldwide. So what we're doing is setting up rides to marine parks or ex-marine parks locations, because you are from the UK, as you know, there's no marine park there anymore, and they're also UK is really the best country in that sort of things, because I read a story about they're also trying to ban circuses with animals.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah.
And
there's loads of things happening here. But having said that, because I live in the UK, we have our problems, with greyhounds and the like. So, but on a whole, people are really aware here, and so it is a great country for people who fight for animals. At the same time, animal abuse is a global issue, and there isn't any country on this planet that doesn't do something wrong to our animal kin, But I agree, they're here. The British, stand up a lot. They don't just say we don't like circuses. They protest there.
And it's spreading, because I read Switzerland is also closing down marine park, and Germany has been closing down marine parks.
Yeah. And just because for your listeners out there, you may have listened to this online, and we recorded this in November. Now we're airing this in January. So it's not important if you get the timeline, But just in November, there was a proposal for a laboratory where they wanted to test cigarette stuff on beagles. And, because of the international community of animal rights people and others, these plans have been, stopped. So there won't be a new beagle laboratory in the UK. So there are victories. That's another thing that I always wanted to say, especially when there's doubt, Vincent, when you do such a thing for the first time and you go like, well, I have no real, experience in this, and I need to see where this is going. There are really victories that people achieve.
Yeah, well, the most shocking thing is that people still come up with these weird ideas of testing products on animals and capturing animals. Yeah. They don't stop. And
again, just the other day we had a very long conversation and interview about this. And 9 out of 10 don't work. Flipping a coin is more accurate. And we were saying that obviously animal testing is the one medical or scientific field that is medieval, and it's just not going to work.
It's all medieval. I mean, displaying animals in a marine park is very medieval as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't really matter which way you slice it. It's not limited to the orca. There's something infinitely wrong with how we as humans see the world and the way we think, what rights we have.
Yeah, and I hope at some point we are very ashamed of ourselves of what we've been doing.
And I just read the other day that India has given non-human people rights, it's called, to whales. So and things will happen in the future. So I think on a whole things are happening. So when you go and say like, okay, let's just organize this, that must be very difficult, because a lot of you would have to communicate with lots of other bikers, have to organize this state-wise. I also don't know if you can just show up unannounced, or if in certain countries, you have to if you want to protest, you have to let them know. So how does this all work, and when is it planned? And are you going to Laura Parker first? If we can actually say that on air, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything here.
Well, yeah, sure, I can. Well, the first thing we're doing is educating people through our website with documentaries. They are put on there, interviews, articles are all being put on our website.
What's the website?
It's bikersfororcas.co.nr.
Co.nr. NR.
Oh yeah, that's
okay.
it.
Doesn't really matter, because what Vincent, if you could, because we're recording this via Skype, you guys, if you could just text me, text me the link here on our online version, www.wildtimeonline.blogspot.com. This is where you find this interview, and this is where you find the link to the website, because I know exactly, I'm the same like you guys, and I say it in every show, gets a bit tedious, but I know from experience, listening to radio all my life, I never have a pen handy when someone says, oh, here's my website. So that's why we have this blog, wildtimeonline.blogspot.com. Type in Orcas or Bikers or whatever you feel like about citations, and this interview will come up, and you will find a link there to the website. So we're saying it one more time. If you could give it out one more time.
Bikers for Orcas, that's 4 as in the number, bikersfororcas.co.nr.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah, so we're giving people information on the whole subject, and we've got our Facebook page, which we try to get discussions on and post as many orca-related things as we can.
And I reckon it's Bikers for Orcas. Just people Google this on Facebook and you will get there.
Yeah, if you type Bikers for Orcas, you get to our website or
also,
our Facebook.
Once we have recorded this and this uploaded there, the interview here will also be shared on their Facebook page, obviously. So
yeah,
it's on
the website as well.
Yeah, it's much easier than people always think it is. I like the 21st century with all our opportunities that we have.
It is brilliant.
It's brilliant, So, but obviously, when you're planning obviously bigger things, so probably the idea is to get bikers from different countries to come to the way I figure this to a specific place at a specific time to make a lot of noise.
June 14 next year is
Saturday. If you listen to this on the radio, it's this year. It's 2014 because we recorded in November.
Yeah.
So June 14th, 2014.
Saturday the 14th of June. We are organizing a worldwide ride, and that means that groups of bikers will go on riding that day on the same time, because every...
okay, so they're going to different places at the same time? Or are they all coming down to Spain?
No. We're not. Basically, we're not going to Laura Parque because there's a road going there, and it's.
Okay, I didn't know. Like I said,
it's an island, and it's not easy to get there, and it would take a lot of money and time to get there. But like in Holland, we'll be going to the Dolfinarium in Harderwijk. Mm-hmm. We'll be starting at a big orca statue in Spakenburg. The ride will be about an hour. We will stop at Harderwijk and show people there that it's wrong. Educate them.
So the idea is that other groups, other biker, groups or clubs, whatever you want to call them, they go to whatever is nearest to them.
Exactly.
And do exactly the same. Just the same way, you probably remember this, you guys, for Taiji, we did a very special feature, in 2012, and it was in 86 cities around the globe at the same time. And we have talked to about, 8 people from 8 different countries doing something at the same time. So that's interesting. So that's how this works. I just wanted to be clear in my mind, because, we set this up really quickly, so I don't have all the information. So it's good that you tell us this.
Yeah, well, it is exactly as you said. We're trying to do it at, the end of the ride should be at a marine park or at the coast if there are not marine parks, or anyway, just to show people all over the world, like, this is wrong, and how to set it up. Of course, I can't do that alone, because...
No, of course not. But you don't have to, because you're part of a group.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we've got spokespersons set up all over the world who we meet through Facebook. We've got about 3,500 likes now on our Facebook page. So we ask people, look, if you are in America and close to a SeaWorld park, could you contact us and help us set this up? So we are in close contact with people from all over the world: Switzerland, America, Canada, Germany, Germany not yet, Belgium, England.
But I know that in Germany we talked to a group in Germany. I should really print out what we have recorded, because it's embarrassing now. But we have talked to a German fella a while ago. He doesn't speak English, so we did the interview sort of in German, and then I translated on air live. So therefore, it was just an insert, and his name escapes me. I will find it out for you, just between you and me now. I will find that out for you and send you his name, because he is actually one of those guys. He also has links to Paul Watson and all these sorts of people, and so he is actually fighting for cetaceans and is doing something in Germany. So anyway, I get him in touch with you.
That will be brilliant. 'Cause we still need someone in Germany.
I'm not sure if he is a biker, but the idea obviously is, when you live in a country, you know people.
Yeah, the thing is, we don't need bikers as a spokesperson. The spokesperson needs to be promoting our organization in their country. So we tell people to go to biker club Facebook pages and tell them about us and the idea we're having, and a biker loves to ride, so basically it shouldn't be that much of a problem to get people excited for this. Absolutely. And especially when you mention freedom, which we want to experience as bikers, it should be triggering something within them.
Yeah, and there are loads of smaller radio stations that would give you a lot of time, not just 5 minutes that you get when you are on the news in the evening for making noise. And obviously it does, it is great to be on the telly and raise awareness, but the people who really listen to you are usually the smaller outlets, and they're also in every country, and they're always looking for stories. One of the reasons why it is difficult for us, for instance, to travel is when I go somewhere where events will be held in a certain language, and we're having an English-speaking program, that makes it difficult. So but obviously, I'm sure with your Facebook pages and stuff, a lot of people will probably want to be there and make this known. And as an offer, I would like to talk to you probably in June before this happens, or maybe even after. See what happens there.
Yeah, that would be great, sure.
Would be really good. So obviously, the other thing is, at this point in time, you are basically annoyed with what happens and how it happened. So you have come on board to do something. It's a great idea. It will rally a lot of people. But we also know that by its very nature, getting animals back into the wild, as it were, is always a very, very long, tedious battle. So yes. Obviously, in the back of your head, you probably do. I'll ask you now: do you expect big changes? I mean, we always hope, but what I'm saying is that obviously, setbacks are always something that we have to experience and then just keep going.
Well, we are experiencing changes right now with the with Blackfish and of course David Kirby's book. You can see. Yes. A lot more people getting involved and a lot more people standing up. I mean, after Blackfish was shown on CNN, people were giving up their passes to SeaWorld and saying, well, I'm never going to go back there with my children. And also, people that have never ever heard of even an orca or killer whale, whatever you want to call them, now know about it and are disgusted with the way they are being treated. And it's interesting that you mention this, because we talked to Gabriela Kauperswet, the director, and then the movie, they sent me the link so I could watch it twice. Makes a bit more sense when you talk to the director if you know what the movie is about. So I watched it twice, and then it was screened here in Birmingham, and we talked to people as they came out of the movie, and it was a very quiet show because people were choked. They just couldn't talk. It was just so emotional. Well, did talk apparently, but it was very interesting because here I was, all over the place with my microphone and stuff. But it was amazing because you could see people there making a connection. To be honest, I've got Blackfish on DVD before it was released in Holland, because it's only been in the theaters from last week Monday. We were at the premiere as well. Yeah. And I was very happy that I had the DVD before that. Our English spokesperson got the DVD for me, sent it to me so I could watch it. Yeah, and I watched it about 5, 6, 7 times before I went to the premiere. Mm-hmm. And the first time I watched it, I cried. Well, a biker, we've got a sort of a reputation to keep up.
Yeah. Well, it's dark.
Sitting in a theater crying about animals, I mean, it's not a bad thing, of course, but... Exactly. The funny thing is now then, when I watched it last time in the theater at the premiere, you've seen it. You see horrible pictures of orcas being wounded and captured and all that. Yeah. And the thing that gets me most emotional now is the images of the orcas swimming by in the free world.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that gets me more emotional at this point than all the. It gets you numb at some point. You get
absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing is obviously when you sit in the cinema, you have a lot of people and you have this big emotional build-up. And a lot of people there know already they're going to do something about it. So watching it at home is probably a different experience. And obviously, I think it's pretty normal because you see them in the wild. And you kind of think like, here you have these animals in the wild, and then you have all the others that you're trying to rescue somehow. What an unfair world. And the animals in the wild, obviously, oftentimes don't fare much better. They're still Taiji. I think the moment you're no longer emotional is the moment where you should go back to drinking. This is another thing I heard about you bikers.
Well, actually, I'm not a big drinker, to be
I'm
honest.
just saying it, just sort of, going into all these, stereotypes.
Well, it's a very funny feeling because I've got my wedding planned for next year, August, and our honeymoon will be to Canada, and we will be going to do the canoeing with Orcas.
Perfect.
And as a closure of that year as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I already got the feeling that if I'm there and I experience them swimming by, it will change me even more than
Absolutely.
It changed me already.
Yeah.
I'm seeing them on YouTube or in those documentaries, seeing them swim by in a natural habitat. Yeah, it gives goosebumps. It gives you
Absolutely.
chills.
And even, a guy I used to work with always said to me, I rather watch them on a DVD if I can't travel, if I don't have the money, but I'm not going to a bloody park, So,
Well, you mentioned
thing.
that before. You said, people say it's expensive to go there and see them, and yeah, it's not something you just do. But if you can save that up, all your money over, even if it was 10 years, and just see them once, it would be the experience of a lifetime, really.
Absolutely.
And maybe
we find a new truth. Maybe we find a new way of doing things. So maybe schools will go there in the future. If more people go, then the costs are not as high. So there's always options. We would just have to, open up. People go in and look at museums. Maybe, I personally believe countries are by and large, are still rich enough to do these trips, every now and then with some of the kids, So I think it's all doable.
It is, of course it is doable, but we have to get the SeaWorld thing out of our heads.
But the good thing is, again, for you guys out there, it doesn't really matter now when you listen to this, whichever way you look at things, but have a look at the figures. The figures are going low, and we are happy about this.
Yeah.
Because they are sentient beings in captivity. To me personally, I've always been saying this for the last 6 years on the show. I couldn't care less how intelligent the animal is, because I think when you look at seahorses, for instance, they put them in these tiny little glass things, and 90% of the seahorses they don't make it on their journey from the ocean to Sea Life or Sea World, whatever they're called these days. So there are big numbers behind the one you see. And it doesn't matter to me if the seahorse is not as majestic as the orca. It's still wrong. We have to get to this point where we say, like, what am I doing here?
It's all with all small steps. I mean, you've got, I don't know how you call it there, but meat that you eat. You can either get meat from animals that are stuck up in a big shed and never see sunlight, or you can choose to spend a bit more money to buy meat from animals that have been out all their lives and had a good life, better life than the ones that being.
And eventually, the moment you say yourself had a so what good life, you're getting there. Trust me on this. Because you just stop there. If you stop there, if it does affect you, then eventually, this is just, I talked to hundreds of vegans over the years. This is exactly how it starts, mate.
I've been thinking about that for a long time.
I'm just saying it, it's because when you really research it, when you really look at it, they don't pat them over the head before they slit their throats. This is abuse. So, but I just wanted to, sort of tease you a bit, but it's interesting. The moment you stop when you say that sentence, I know that you made a connection.
Actually, my father was a butcher, so.
This is interesting, we had Dr. Will Tuttle on air in 2010, and I had just sort of pitched the show for a new radio station. So it was the first show on Dublin FM back then, Dublin South FM, sorry. And we had this show, and they broadcast it globally, but from a shopping center. And the butcher listened in. And I have said to Will Tuttle, we talked about the universe, and I said to Will Tuttle, if I ever had to look for a new girlfriend, the universe would send me the daughter of the butcher. And I didn't mean anything by it. I just meant, that it would be difficult for me to sit on that table and be nice when you meet the parents, sort of. And of course the butcher called in that day. And, and I asked him, I said, like, look, you can come up and we can have an interview about this. And he declined, But I remember that very well because the station manager was saying to me, like, are all shows of yours like this?
Well,
so we're not knocking people. Like I said, I ate meat for 40 years and I have met butchers that say to me, like, look, we've been feeding the community for hundreds of years. This isn't an easy thing. But, how great would it be if your father is a butcher and your kids pick up on veganism?
Yeah, I still have to get used to that.
I know.
I love meat.
Now I'm getting in trouble here,
No, not at all. Because I don't mind. I mean, I don't care if people eat meat or not. Or
no, I understand, but we do care because it has an impact on the environment. So obviously, but my point was, I was just listening to you saying this, and you stopped. So I knew you're right there where I was once.
I've been at that point for years already. So.
Anyway, don't give up. I'm sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not going to bet on it because I'm not. That's not the things I do. But all I'm saying is, I heard it in your voice that you have made a connection there, and you understand that this is just, eventually, let's just leave it there. But you sounded like the people who go down that road already. Anyway.
Well, let's get back to the Orcas then.
Yes. Back to the topic it is.
Well, as you said, the school trips. Funny you should mention that because I was talking to Christopher Porter, who's also in Blackfish, is an ex-trainer of Telecom in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And he has set up this amazing project called Orcas Safe, orcasafe.com. And what it is basically is you get these big screens somewhere in a mall or a big shopping center, and it's all interactive. You can see the ocean, you can see the animals, you can touch the screens, you get an app, you can learn about them just standing in your mall, and you can see them just standing in your mall. And alright, you can't see them live as in, almost touch them. And with as you said, the 20th century is brilliant. We can learn so much from just sitting behind kids are spending so much time behind their computers. Yeah. Why don't parents take the time and show them what they need to learn about these animals online?
Absolutely.
Why should we take them to these parks and let them, as they say, entertain us, which is not very entertaining at all.
No. But the point is, that there's more and more people, just like yourself. You were in that situation. You woke up, and more people are waking up. It's just there's so much money in it to be made. And then and another thing that we probably have to cover one day, when I'm 75 or something, is where to put all these animals that were in captivity, that are bred for this. So this is a massive issue.
Well, there are already plans for what should happen to these animals that have been in captivity.
Yes, I know there are plans, but we talked to someone about this a while ago, and so we were talking about habitats and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, logically speaking, when you look at the numbers of animals in captivity, then it is unlikely to save them all.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but then again, let's cover this when we're there. All I'm saying is that because we have messed it up so much, there will be more victims.
Well, some animals, and I was talking to that friend that was at Lower Park the other day, and we were talking about Telecom, and how sometimes I can get, just by looking at it, I can really get angry with people. And sometimes, and I know I should probably not say this, but sometimes it seems it would be better off if he was just dead. This is no life for this animal, and if he can't be freed, I'm not saying we should kill him.
No, of course not. But it's also interesting that you mentioned this because we know, and Dr. Enke Visser told us that as well, and Laura Pozzato told us that as well, that obviously many of these animals don't make it past 8 years. Is the maximum. that they live in captivity because it's just too much. They're very emotional animals.
You can look up the numbers online. There's tons
I know
of
that the numbers are
on
constantly changing, though.
No, but there's a big register, WordPress, on this subject, and it shows perfectly which whales were captured, which were born in captivity, and how long they lived, and who's still living. Yeah. But if you look at Morgan's case, I mean, she's so young, and they're already using her for their breeding program.
Yeah.
Which is so unnatural.
Which again, it's just it's a crime. That's what this is.
You're having a child being raped. That's basically the point.
Absolutely.
Which is sickening.
Yeah. I'm checking my clock here, and we have about 90 seconds before I'm at the end of my show. I know I talk too much. This has always been my problem. But always, nonetheless, I hope you find it interesting because when we exchange things here. Before I let you go, I'm sure we talk again because it's really interesting what you're trying to do. If you could just give out your website one more time and probably your Facebook page, so because Facebook is big these days, so people can have a look and maybe get in touch and help you organize June the 14th, Saturday, June the 14th, 2014, is the date where the idea is to have a global thing with loads of bikers in front of loads of marine parks, make a hell of a noise, and let the people know that, we're not standing for this any longer. It has to stop. So the bigger you can make this, or we can make this, the better it is. So give out your website again.
It's Bikers for Orcas. That's bikers with number 4, then orcas.co.nr. And if you just type Bikers for Orcas on Facebook, you will find us. Perfect.
And like I said, for you guys out there who know that we have an online version where you can also listen to this interview, under the blog for this interview, just type in Bikers or Oceans or Orcas, it will come up. The website or the link to the Facebook page and the website will be provided for you. So our official blog is wildtimeonline.blogspot.com. Vincent, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a real pleasure, and it's great, and maybe one day we talk about your veganism.
Well, let's meet up again in about 50 years, right?
Who knows? I'm just saying it, Well, enough said, eventually we will talk about it.
I'm sure we will, mate.
All right, then talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.